Good afternoon, guys and girls, and welcome back to my channel and my Facebook page. So I have a very interesting topic to talk to you guys about today. And before I begin, I want to give you guys some time to sign on, and I have some things I want to share with you guys. Some things that I've been thinking about. First of all, how you guys doing? Today is a beautiful day, even despite that it's raining outside, and it's been raining yesterday, today, and it's supposed to rain tomorrow, and even next week it's supposed to rain Wednesday and Friday. I'm like, all this rain in LA, this is like record breaking. It's like so unusual, but I can't complain. A lot of people just don't know how to adjust and adapt, but get through the rain. It's okay. So I actually just left my family systems class, and I actually love my professor because it's just, I think his personality is just so warming, it's so motivating, it's very refreshing. He has a very open mind, and he's very respectful to people's different perspectives, you know. So kudos to my family systems professor. And it's interesting because he is a white man, so, and granted, I'm like the only black woman in the class, so I have to just put that out there because I had this interaction with my supervisor actually yesterday, who happens to be an African American woman, and I just find it interesting. It struck me in a way that you have this thing, right, where white people see black people in a certain light, through a certain lens. We already know this. This has been going on for many years. It's often talked about, you know, this thing, racism, right, and this racial bias, and oftentimes with that, black people, specifically black women, often get stereotyped in a certain way, right? That, oh, you're defensive, you're argumentative, and oftentimes it's not even really the case, but people oftentimes stereotype black women as defensive or argumentative, and it gets to the point where it's annoying, and it usually is white people who have made that. And I think historically, but now more recently, you see a lot of black people calling each other argumentative, like you labeling each other with these stereotypes of like you're being defensive, right? And I think it can be problematic, apparently, especially if you're just throwing out labels, you know, and without a certain context, you know. And I think that is also restricting and it's very limiting because it almost takes away a person's permission to just be, right? Like if a woman has a certain perspective on a topic and she articulates herself very well about it, you know, and let's say she speaks in such a way that she feels very passionate and she brings emotion, it's like, oh, she's being defensive, right? And it's not, I wasn't surprised when I heard my supervisor tell me that I'm defensive, like I'm getting defensive. It's like, how can you say that I'm getting defensive, number one, when you ask me a question, right? It's almost as if I can't even have a brain, you know, and anyone who knows me know that I'm a very analytical person. Like I like to articulate my thoughts and I like to express, you know, myself, and I do it in a way I think that is very respectful, but it's offensive when people receive it in a way that it's almost as if it's a threat to who they are, right? And I know she's my supervisor, so I think there's this power dynamic where supervisors sometimes feel like they just have to have the last word, right? Or that their word trumps everything. Like what their perspective is more important than your perspective. And I think that is the kind of issue that apparently me and my supervisor we've been having, and I think it's going to be an ongoing issue because if she maintains this idea that, okay, she has all this power, and then in her mind that means that she has to have the final say, or that my perspective isn't worth anything, like because she's licensed, that what she says is, you know, it has the most weight. Yeah, that's going to be an issue because I'm like, I don't care what your credentials are, not that I don't respect her credentials, But I also believe that what I believe is important too. You know, like there are different ways on looking at something. There's different ways on looking at a different issue. And I wouldn't say there's necessarily no right or wrong way, you know, and I think that that's the whole beauty in academia, and especially when you go back in history. And I know y'all waiting for me to get onto the real topic, but I have to kind of give this prelude real quick. That historically in academia, I think the reason why we were able to advance as far as we have, especially in the field of psychology, is that the students who worked under professors, you know, who worked under these theories, they appreciated a difference of perspective. It's like that's how new ideas are birthed. You know, it's not always about, let's say, the main theorist, right? Let's say, take for example Freud. It's not that, oh, he has this theoretical perspective and that everybody that is under him, that you have to force that perspective on them, right? And then they just have to accept it and believe it. Like, no. Like, I think new ideas are birthed when you have two or more different perspectives come into play with each other, and then you're able to kind of play with them, you know? Like, you're able to kind of work it out. She's almost trying to establish dominance. Exactly. Like, there's no need to. So basically, I think our supervision ended a little bit early, and she was like, oh, well, I see that, you know, you're getting defensive, and, you know, I'm not going to do this back and forth, so you're dismissed, you know, and we'll try it again next week. And she has this thing where, oh, if things aren't going well, instead of trying to work through it, she'll go and, like, try to report it to, like, my school, and it's just like, no. I feel like there should be a level of maturity on her part to not get so riled up, because I can look at her and see that she was getting frustrated. And I'm like, how are you getting frustrated? Like, how can little old me make you so frustrated? I can feel the energy, and it was kind of hurtful, you know, like towards the end of the meeting, like when she said I was getting defensive, like, and then she said basically that, oh, I'm dismissing you for today. I felt like offended. I kind of felt hurt by that, because I'm like, really? Like, you're a black woman, I'm a black woman. Like, if anything, why is there tension? What is the tension about, you know? I mean, I can look back now and smile about it, but it was disappointing. I think I was really disappointed to see that a person with her number of years of experience, you know, in psychology, that she doesn't have control over her own self. I feel like she's trying to control herself through me, right? I can see that she was losing her sense of power, even with the way she was elevating her voice. I'm like, what's the need of raising your voice? You know, and it was all just about something as simple as administering psychodiagnostic tests, right? The choice to administer or not to administer or whatever, and she was asking for my explanation. I'm just like, this is just, you asked for my explanation, I'm giving you my explanation. And then she gets upset, and then she starts to talk to me in a way that's very, like, demeaning, as if, like, I don't know why psychologists choose to take that route of administering a psychodiagnostic test. I'm like, I've learned that in school. Like, you don't have to, that's almost like telling the person who already knows 1 + 1 = 2, right? It's just like 1 + 1 = 2. Like, this is I'm like, I know that, but I basically said, okay, I get it. This is not a testing site. You don't think that we should administer tests. So, and just like in the discussion, you don't have to. What is the point in keep going back and forth? But she was like, no, you need to know this, because this is how it is going forward, and this is how it is in the field. And I'm like, there is a lot of so-called standard of practice or different ways things happen, right, in the field. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's right. That just means that's the way things have been going, you know? Like, I'm a free thinker. Everybody knows, like, I think outside the box, and I feel like there's a place for people who have different ideas, you know, revolutionary ideas. There's nothing wrong with that. But anyway, I think that kind of relates even to this topic that I'm going to talk to you guys about I don't even know how it's pronounced, right? It's something it came up to me that's very new. MGTOW. Y'all, please tell me how to pronounce that. All I can say is I like MGTOW or Tower. I'm like, what the hell is this? And it was a comment that was left on my YouTube channel, a video that I made I think it was about dating interracially. I'm trying to remember what the topic. I talk about so many different things, but I know it had to do with dating, right? Black women dating, let's say, outside of their race. Just the issues that exist between black men and women. And a man commented, I don't know if he was white or black. I don't know. I only can assume he's white because I'm like, I ain't never heard no black man talk about MGTOW, or y'all correct me if I'm wrong. I don't even know how it's pronounced. It's an acronym. I'm going to tell you guys what it stands for. But I'm like, I never heard no black man talk about that. So this has to be a white man. But he goes to say, that's the reason why we have MGTOW, right? And I'm like, what? I didn't even reply to him. And I usually, sometimes I think I delete comments, a lot of comments sometimes because they're disrespectful and offensive. But I left his up because I feel like it's something to that. I felt it was a very valuable comment that was left, and I wanted to explore it more for myself. So I Googled it. I Googled MGTOW, right? I look it up, and it basically stands for men going their own way. And I'm like, what is this? Like, is this the men's movement? Is this a male version, the men's version of the women's rights movement? But when I looked it up, it says no, it's not a men's movement, but it is a men's movement, basically. But they're saying that what doesn't make it a men's movement basically is the fact that they're not trying to necessarily push for laws. They're not trying to change the social status or the status quo for men, or try to change any laws governing men and women. It's a community. It's like a online support community, right? And what their goal is, basically, so their goal is to basically discourage men from seeking romantic relationships with women. Their goal is to discourage men from getting married to women. And I'm like, what is going? This is a time we live in. And y'all feel free to comment. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Have y'all even heard of MGTOW? That's why I'm like, what the hell is MGTOW? It was so, like, in the comment that was made, this had to be made maybe like a week ago on my post. But this movement, I'm going to call it a movement because it sounds like it's a pretty powerful thing. It's been going on for some time, and I'm like, what? Exactly, Trinissa. I'm like, what? What's up, Amonte? It amazed me. I'm just like, there's a community for this? Like, men are serious, and you know what? It makes sense because y'all know I've been on a dating scene since the end of December 2017, right? And I'm like, the dating scene always has been kind of crazy, kind of been murky, right? But it seems like it's even more crazy. It's crazier now because you have the women's rights movement that complicates things. I just feel like all these movements, as it relates to gender, it just complicates things, y'all, in terms of human relations. And now you have MGTOW for men. And men are really like coming together saying basically they don't need us. And they're fighting against romantic relationships with women. And this is something I think that's kind of underground, It's like, women, we don't know about this. Like, let me know. Women, have y'all heard of this? We don't know this is going on, but it makes sense that that's the kind of like the underlining theme. That's a driving force for why men are behaving in the way that they are towards women. Because I'm wondering, like, what is going on with these men? Like, why men acting like... Y'all remember back in the day how it was like a woman was a catch for a man, right? Like, it was the woman that the man really worked hard to try to get, right? The man went out of his way. The man courted a woman, Like, he made an effort to try to get a woman. Not to say it doesn't go on, because I don't want to make it sound like I'm talking in extremes, but I'm just saying, like, getting the nature, getting the vibe of how things are happening in our society. That's basically what is happening. So things have kind of turned where men, they feel like they the catch. They feel like we deserve our rights. And they feel like basically, and I actually took some notes because this is really important. So there's this concept, this term called Gynocentric. Or gynocentric. Gynocentric, yeah. Because it's like gynecology. But gynocentric, yeah. The root word in that. So gynocentric, because this is all new to me, y'all, so correct me if I'm wrong. Like, I'm just learning this stuff. You say, not anymore, things have changed, and you wonder why men are all cocky now. You're like, wait, they all cocky, and I think, yes, the women to men ratio plays a factor into that too. How many available women that you have to one man definitely plays a factor. But the gynocentric term basically says that there are conditions that favor women to the detriment of men. Conditions that favor women to the detriment of men. And with this MGTOW movement, these men are fighting against that because they acknowledge that, wait a minute, you have all of these biases in favor of women against men that come at the detriment of men, and men are saying, wait a minute, we falling back, we losing. And so I'm gonna read you guys some of these biases. The one that really stood out to me, all of these actually stand out, but I'm like, okay, double standard and gender roles. Like, they complain and talking about the double standard in gender roles. Really? Really? How is that a detriment to men? But when you think about it, y'all help me understand this, because I'm still trying to wrap my mind around this. I'm like, gender roles. I know the traditional gender roles, but for me, it seems like, I don't know. It seems like I never thought that men had a problem with that. I never thought that men have a problem with the traditional sense of a man, that a man is supposed to provide. A man is supposed to take care of the household, right? He's supposed to be the breadwinner. Woman is supposed to work, right? Is that what you guys are talking about? Those are gender roles. But in terms of double standard, help me understand this, you guys. Because I'm like, how is that a problem? Men are complaining about working now? I'm like, this thing, it just aggravates me, you guys. I'm going to keep reading. Bias against men in family courts. Now, I can see where that can be an issue. I can definitely see how men take issue with how they're being treated, especially when it comes to custody and child support. Yes, I get that. That's a huge issue. And honestly, I'm against child support, but I feel like, I don't know, this is difficult. This is a tricky subject because I know you have a lot of men that do pay child support and they complain about it, they don't like it. And in a woman's mind, it's like, okay, if you did what you're supposed to do, you wouldn't have to have child support. But, and when we think about child support, it ain't just about, you think about it in terms of like the black community, right? But no, you got white men. This is a white man's movement. White men are complaining about having to pay child support. And they like, what the fuck? These women are trapping us, you know? And they feel disempowered. And it's really about power. You know, anytime you have a movement, a community, an organization of people that come together for whatever cause, it's really about empowering them, you know, mobilizing them to have better quality lives, basically. So I think men feel disempowered when they have to pay child support. They feel cornered, you know. And I think it is true when you think about it. Like, women may use the court system as a manipulative tool. You know, like if there's tension, there's issues between the man and the woman in a relationship, and it's not working out, right? And especially if he's the one to call the relationship off and they have a child, then what's the next step? Child support automatically, you know? But y'all let me know what y'all think about that. That's a touchy subject too, because you have men that do take care of their children. They do pay and they do buy things for their children, right? But I think the woman still feels entitled. And traditionally, that's how it was. Like, a woman should feel entitled, for maternal support, I think, because traditionally, and when I say tradition, I'm talking about back in the day, way back in the day, the man just did not take care of the child only. He took care of the family, the mother, and the child. So what is going on here? Things have changed, and I feel like men, they feel entitled because they like, okay, a woman works, she makes money, so why isn't she contributing? Why is it that I have to spend my check on her and the child or the household when she's working? She should contribute 50-50, and y'all already know how I feel about that whole 50-50 mess. I'm like, no, I disagree. And then the other one was lack of concern for men who are falsely accused of rape. So that's a major issue too. And I think it is becoming more and more common, this whole Me Too movement. And I'm a woman myself, but I don't necessarily agree with what's happening with this whole Me Too movement, man. I feel like women, they taking that shit and they running with it, Yeah, so many single women now, I'm looking at why intelligent, beautiful, strong women, it's like men just don't want that. Right. It's not that they don't just want beautiful, strong women. They don't even want women. Women have careers and they feel not as strong. I'm so confused. Yeah. I don't even think it's necessarily about, they don't want strong women or smart women, educated. They don't even want to deal with women. And this is irrespective of race. Men are just like, according to this movement, MGTOW, they just like, fuck women because they feel like it's coming at a disservice to them. They feel like, what are they gaining by marriage and by an intimate relationship, by romantic, what is there to gain for a man? That's their complaint, basically. And they feel like with everything that's happening on with society, like at large, especially with the Me Too movement and men, being accused and they held to all of these crazy standards, and they may feel under attack, so they feel like, okay, if we are being viewed through a negative lens through society, it ain't just women, it's everybody looking at them like this, and they have to walk on eggshells around women, they like, fuck them. And it kind of makes sense, I think, when you try to think about it objectively. I mean, it's fucked up because you have women like me, what I'm saying? Like, I'm single, like, come on, like. But I've talked to men and I can see how, just in my conversations with men who are also single, and yes, it's like they want to date, but they struggle with it because they have internalized these beliefs. And they may not even know that they are part of this MGTOW or being affected by it, but this is a movement that's happening. I mean, when you see like the memes that are out there, if you just kind of decode some of these memes, I wouldn't even be surprised if the MGTOW people, they created these memes that are kind of putting women down. I wish I had some examples, but I kind of did this video on the fly. But it's just like there's a lot of memes that kind of, I mean, this kind of been an issue before, where there's sexism, right? And men have this negativistic view of women, but it's even heightened even more. Not just so much that, they look at women as inferior, because that's one thing. For a man to look at a woman as inferior in terms of there's a hierarchy, right, of power, that's one thing. But this movement, MGTOW, they take it to a whole nother level. They like, not only do we feel that you guys are inferior, but we don't need you. They are basically saying that they want to have a society, a world where they don't even need to have a marriage. They don't want to necessarily feel that if a marriage is what validates them as a man. And it is amazing. You say family is woe and man. Yeah, say more about that, Sergey. But it's like, and when you have men who think like this, it makes you wonder, like, how the hell people going to procreate? This is going to impact the fertility rate. This is going to impact the birth rate. The number of people, the number of babies born is going to obviously decrease. It's a way to control the population. When you have these beliefs that are being spread and a lot of people they latching on to it, it's just like, damn. So it's no surprise why you see women who are turning gay. There are a lot of same-sex marriages between women and men too, but you see it with women where they are kind of also embrace the same kind of belief system, right? And they go and they create their own family. They have kids without a man. I mean, of course, the sperm, they purchase sperm, but I'm saying without the man being involved in the romantic relationship. Because it's just like, what's the point? But for what, this is the kind of thing that, these things like this, like, they really excite me. For a number of reasons, like, because I'm caught in it, like, I'm a part of this, like, I'm in a point where, like, I am trying to choose my mate, and then I come across men, and it ain't got shit to do with me, but it's just about the texture of our society globally, how their beliefs are just, they've changed, man. They're becoming different kind of men. So these men are not gay. And see, that's a good question, Shanisa, about being gay, because when you read between the lines, right? Because I'm reading what the movement is about. I've Googled it and I read some stuff on it. And you read this stuff, and they're not coming out directly saying they're gay, but it damn sure sound like gay. And I'm just like, if you're gay, you're gay. Just say it. But I think it's a safe way. It's a safe way for them to validate. I won't say rationalize, but validate their choice of living a life apart from women in terms of having a family and a romantic relationship and marriage to a woman. This is a way to validate that, And I mean, you think about it, it kind of makes sense, because it's like they have their rights too. They have their feelings. We sometimes think that, you laughing. You say something like men don't have feelings, but they have their feelings too. But it's just like, come on. I get it. I think it reminds me of like Black Lives Matter, right? And granted, Black Lives Matter, it serves its purpose because Black people, we feel underrepresented, we feel targeted by the system of white supremacy, which affects many different areas of, America in terms of education, policing, healthcare, law, all of that. And we have to have this movement to just say that we are people too, right? But when you look at the response to that, it almost kind of like creates even more racial tension when you have movements that are, some people have even labeled it as extreme, right? That's where the FBI came up with this identity extremist thing, where it, to some people, seems like it's extreme because you just go all out and be like, oh, Black Lives Matter. It makes it seem as though you're just being very separatist. It's like you're only focusing on one group of people, and almost as if it's like reverse racism. You are putting them on a pedestal and excluding other races by saying Black Lives Matter, so it creates even more racial tension, right? It basically is kind of counterproductive to the initial goal of saying that we're as people, we're people too, and we all matter. So when you compare that to the women's rights movement, yes, it was created out of a need. And it has a good cause, but at the same time, the reaction to the women's rights movement has now led to where we are now with this MGTOW, because it can get out of hand, I think. Like I already said, I don't agree necessarily with some of the things that are happening with this Me Too movement. And women, I think sometimes are like, they get over. Men are, like they say, are falsely accused of rape, of things they didn't do. They end up having to pay child support, and they feel just disempowered. Just where women now feel empowered, but it's at the detriment of men not feeling empowered. You know, it's like, why can't we all just be empowered? Why can't we all just, but apparently not. I don't know if there's ever a society in which, when you think about people who study history, they say that there was a society that exists where, especially in Africa, where men and women were equal, and it worked just fine. You know, it functioned just fine. But apparently it seems like there can't be a society like that. Like, we almost have to put one gender above the other in order for things to function. You hear this all the time, that people say, two people can't drive the car. Two people can't, be the captain of the ship. One person, has to have the upper hand. And so that's what creates this issue. Now, for me, if you want to know my personal perspective on this whole thing about gender roles and equality, like, I think shit was fine the way it was back in the day. And then we come up trying to be all fucking new school and modern, and I think things are just messed up. I even told my professor, I was like, things were a lot simpler. And he was like, yeah, much simpler back in the day. Like, men knew their role, women knew their role, and it worked. And it seems very intuitive. It seems very natural, the roles that men and women played. I mean, if biologically speaking, men are stronger. I mean, I know you got women that feel like they can lift weights and they can do the same jobs that men do, but I'm just saying though, like, come on, y'all, let's be practical about it, right? Men typically are stronger, but yeah, with some training, I think women can be stronger than some men, I'm saying generally speaking, because there are some men out there that, can easily lose a fight against a woman, if they were to go toe-to-toe with a woman. But I'm just saying, generally speaking, men are stronger. They're usually taller, and it makes sense that they would go out there and work. And back then, work looked different than what it does now. It was more physical labor kind of work. Whereas now, I mean, you have corporate America, you have white-collar jobs that anybody can do as long as you have a good brain, So it doesn't necessarily require, like, physical strength. So it doesn't matter your gender, or your sex. You can be a man or a woman to work these jobs. But it just seems like back then, like, yeah, things were simpler. And then for women, the typical role is that you were the homemaker. You being that you have the womb, you bear children, it makes sense that you stay at home and take care of the children. And while you're taking care of the children, you take care of the house, you do the housekeeping, you do the cooking, the cleaning. That just made sense to me, and it still makes a lot of sense for me today. But, I mean, as a woman myself who values higher education and who values even the system of capitalism, like, I think it's a good idea that no matter your race, that you can earn as much money as you are capable of earning. Like, if you believe that you can become a millionaire, make millions and millions of dollars, then you can do it. If you are genius enough to create a product or service that can allow you to do that. So I think that I do value the traditional gender roles, but I also see myself kind of doing both. So I see myself being a stay-at-home mom, but also being an entrepreneur, being a business person, being a change maker. That's not going to change. That's just intrinsic to who I am. I think things are a lot simpler and it's easier when people just know their role and it's established in the beginning, And I think that now, of course, we've kind of revolutionized our way of thinking, which can be a good thing. So you don't have to be as rigid. Things aren't as rigid, so that it doesn't mean that men have to do X, Y, and Z, or women have to do X, Y, and Z. Like, there's some fluidity within the genders that men and women have found a way to make it work, and it becomes more of a balanced type of relationship, where women work, men contribute to the bills, women contribute to the bills, and they find a way to balance that power dynamic. And that's fine. And if you guys are in a relationship, marriage, or whatever it may be, that you feel you have more of an egalitarian relationship, there's more of a balanced level of power between you and your partner, then feel free to share. I mean, I think that it works and it's helpful for us to have conversations about this because people struggle. And when you have these overarching movements that shape so much of the way we think, it makes sense. It makes sense why you see so many single people out there, and because the times are changing so fast. And when you have a person like myself who's like used to a man approaching a woman and asking her out on a date, and you come across men that are just like, I think I'm a catch too. So I don't think it's not so much that they're gay, right? Because I don't think that at that point quite, but it's like they believe like I'm of value too. So if a man sees himself as of value, right, and he kind of wants to build his self-worth, because I think that's really what this movement is hinting on, then it would make sense that he would feel that, okay, a woman should approach me. Like if a man is like, I'm a catch and I'm building my self-worth, a woman should be the first to initiate conversation. If she likes me, then I'm just going to wait for the woman to ask for my number and to say that she's interested in me. And when you have women that do that, you have women that feel very comfortable in initiating conversation. And not that I don't, but I guess I'm just so used to the other way around. And granted, it still happens that way. Like there are men that still approach me. There are men that still, hit on me. So I don't think that ever is going to necessarily go away. But you can just still see, because you have those men now intermixed with men who are adapting newer ways of thinking. And so it's just interesting when you just come across these men with this new frame of mind. You're just like, okay, you're different. And it makes me even question, I'm like, dude, I have to ask the question I ask, because I think that's important. Like, are you gay? Are you heterosexual? And some men like, oh, did I say something that looked like I'm gay? Like, make you think that I'm gay? I was like, well, yeah. Because in my mind, and in most people's minds, we have this concept of what a heterosexual man looks like. Like he's assertive, he's alpha, he takes the lead, and when a person has that preconceived notion about what a heterosexual man looks like and you see something different, yeah, it's going to make you think like, okay, you're different. Maybe you're not heterosexual. But, yeah. You say, what? Please think about it, Professor. Think about what? I feel like I just think that we live in some very interesting times. Seeing that things are changing. Seeing that in one lifetime, you can see many variations of men. I don't know where my phone will be breaking up with this, but in one lifetime, you can see many different variations of men just in one person's lifetime. I mean, just in one decade, probably. You see this kind of colorful flavor of men, and then they somehow evolve. Society evolves into a different manifestation of what a man looks like. And then I posted a meme, I don't know if y'all saw, y'all probably did, about what men used to be like back in the day and how men are. And it's basically of a lion. And then back in the day, it's like back in the day, there's a representation of a lion that's like the typical lion, the strong lion, right? Fearless. And then now the other flip side to that will be the modern day man. And the lion has like a ponytail like a woman. And it looks like feminine, has these like feminine mannerisms, feminine characteristics. So it's just interesting how even the word masculinity and femininity, like how they have been redefined. What does it mean to be feminine? Back in the day, it meant soft, or it meant nurturing. It meant weak. It meant submissive. And now it's just that term, femininity, has taken on a totally different form, where it means being strong. It means being bold. it even means being alpha. You know, feminine women can now be alpha, you know, and take the lead and be the breadwinner. So, yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting because I guess it gives us the freedom to just be whoever we want to be, right? Be who we are. Because I think that with the rigid gender roles, some people feel confined, they feel restricted, and they want to step outside of that. No one really wants to live a life of restriction. So even myself, I made a recent video about polyandry and how I'm interested in that. So this kind of goes along with that, because you have people's response to my video about polyandry. They were like, oh, you're not going to find any men. And they said specifically alpha men who are interested in polyandry. And I'm like, you think? People don't realize how fast times are changing. Like, if you pay attention, I know a lot of people are just kind of sucked up into like social media, sucked up into TV. And you don't even have a time to observe or reflect. But for me, yes, I'm on social media. I don't watch TV, but I do, like, that's what I think that's what drew me to the field of psychology. And I also minor in sociology. Like, I have a deep interest in studying people and patterns and behavior and just looking at what's happening in our society from an objective standpoint of view. And it's fascinating, you guys. Like, how can you guys not be interested in just seeing the changes in people on an individual level, but more importantly, I think on a systemic social level? It's amazing, and it makes sense. It sets us a context for when you meet a person. It makes sense, like, why this individual is this way, because you look at society that has shaped this person and is continuing to shape this person. It makes perfect sense. So I thank the person who commented that on my post. I mean, even though he was like making a comment kind of like a slight in a way, because like, oh, that's why men are MGTOW. I had to look like, what the hell is MG? All these freaking new acronyms coming up. I looked it up and I was like, men going their own way. I was like, personally, you know, I didn't say this to him in his reply, but I'm like, don't try to blame me and my perspective. Like, it's like a continuous cycle. It's like men blame women, women blame men. Like, come on, dude. Really? Really? Because men do feel overwhelmed. You know, because I recall my video was about women, black women dating outside of their race. Basically, you know, dating white men, right? And in the video, I talked about a number of things, and you know, the shortcomings of black men, and how all of them, they make excuses, and not necessarily to put the blame on the man, but just to say what it is. You know, they don't take care of their responsibilities, and it may seem like I'm just attacking black men. See, I think sometimes you guys get confused because my focus is on the black community. So being that my focus is on the black community, it seems as though when I talk about certain issues that impact the black community, people feel like I am targeting black people in a negative way. And I'm like, no, I'm just focused on a certain demographic of people. We know that these issues they do impact people across racial boundaries. So I get that. But my focus is on the black community. So when I talk about black men not taking care of their children, that's usually the first defense is, oh, well, white men, you know, don't take care of it. Okay, we know that. But we have to focus on our community. You guys don't understand that. Let's focus on our community, right? You know, I ain't trying to save the whole entire freaking world, right? But there is a certain interest that I do have in the black community. And when I talk about black men, and we know this is like a stereotype, but stereotypes can be true, and we know this is a generalization, and generalizations still can be true. We know that every black man is not like this, and I feel like some people, they get so defensive because they're like, oh, that's not me. Okay, good for you. Great. It's not all black men. Thank heavens it's not all black men, because I still have hope in black men. I have not given up on black men. I'm interested in marrying a black man, okay? So let's make that clear. But we are talking about the issue. It's like, can we talk about the issue without people? They're so defensive. They're so protective. And that's a good thing, I guess. You're so protective of your race, right? To the point where you being so defensive, you can't even really address the issue because you're so defensive about it. I want to be able to have a discussion and let's talk about these very difficult topics. You know, I know there's going to be some defensiveness that comes up. Let's talk about, you know, the issue that black men have and not being able to take care of the children, or even, of course, it can be systemic. The issues that they experience can come from racial discrimination, right? But I even had this conversation with my supervisors yesterday because we were talking about post-traumatic slavery syndrome that was coined by Dr. Joy DeGruy, who was an African-American woman. And by the way, I cited her heavily in my dissertation lit review. I get it. Yes, it's important to look at the issues that black clients experience in the context of white supremacy with the backdrop of slavery in mind, right? I get that. And I said that. I'm like, I can appreciate that. But also I think sometimes we get to the point where we rely so heavily on this context, the social context of white supremacy and the history of slavery, that we kind of use it as a cop-out. We use it as a crutch for everything that black people experience, that they go through. How long have I been talking? We use it as a crutch, and I don't think that's necessarily healthy. I think sometimes it can be disempowering too, because it's almost, I think that's the reason why a lot of black people have given up. You wonder why, okay, you go to the hood, I'm talking about the hood, and you see black men that resort to selling drugs, or they've given up, right? In any sense of being able to overcome these obstacles and I guess do things the right way, so to speak. And not to say that all black men who sell drugs have given up, because some of them, no, they still have hope, you know, in themselves to be able to create a sustainable life for themselves. So I'm not saying that, but the portion that have resorted to selling drugs and they've kind of given up on the system, so to speak, it's almost as if sometimes they use it as a crutch. It's like, okay, well, we have racism, you know, slavery, so fuck it. You know, and then even sometimes black women will make excuses for the black men. And I'm like, that to me, I don't want us to get to a point where we're using slavery and the post-traumatic slave syndrome theory as a cop-out, as a crutch to why we can't do anything as black people. It's like, no, I get it. Yes, that happened. And yes, I'm very much well aware of the struggle. I lived it myself. You know, I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth. So I'm very much aware of the obstacles, still encountering obstacles myself, even at this level that I'm at. So let's make that clear, because I think sometimes people get it confused, despite when you look at the different socioeconomic statuses of black people, whether you're low income, middle, or high, it's like sometimes people with lower income, you know, they like, oh, y'all don't like people who are, let's say, middle class or upper class, get these frowns and get like these weird stances from people who are at the lower end of the so-called socioeconomic ladder, totem pole, as if, oh, you think you're better or you don't understand. How can you say that? When most of us came from the bottom, and regardless of what position you are in society, in this caste system that we live in, we all still are fighting the same fucking struggle. We all still have to go through the same shit. So I have to put that out there. But yes, I don't want us to use slavery as a crutch, or racism, you know, as a crutch when we're trying to overcome it. And even the statement to say that, oh, black people can't be racist. Now, I'm a person, I like to see things from different perspectives. And that's the reason why I opened this video and talking about, giving an example of my supervisor, because I think that that's how we stunt our progress. If we can't have discussions where people have differing points of view, and we can do that. We can't even do it respectfully. How can we grow? Like, we're not always going to agree. We're not always going to see things from the same perspective, and I think that's healthy. That's good. It doesn't matter the power dynamic. We should all be welcoming of other people's perspective so that we can be able to move forward from where we are, you know? And the statement to say that, oh, black people can't be racist, granted the definition of what racism is, right? And I'm pretty sure most black people will agree. Most people in the world probably will say that, will agree to say that black people can't be racist, except for myself. Because I just have a different perspective on that. And I say, for people to say, whether you're white or black, to say black people can't be racist, that is the most racist shit I've ever heard. And when I say that, people have to think about it. And then they laugh. I always watch people's reactions when I say that. And then when I say it, it's like they pause, they think about it. They're like, wait a minute. Can we be racist? And then they think like, well, damn, that is racist, right? Because if we define racism in terms of power and being able to limit a person's ability to be able to live productively and survive based on their race, then people have bought this idea. They have been swindled into thinking that black people, we can't have power. Because to say that black people can't be racist, I say we can't have power. I'm of a total different mind frame. I'm of a total different school. And I feel like because that statement has been repeated a million times, it is just so secondary. I don't even think people really think when they say it. They just be saying it. I don't think that they really put much thought to it. I don't think anybody ever really challenged the thought. They just accept it, you know. White people, maybe it came from white people that black people can't be racist. And then all of a sudden, black people, oh, we can't be racist. But then when I think about, okay, what's the benefit to not being able to be racist, right? Maybe there is a benefit for black people, for the world to believe that we can't be racist, because that helps us get ahead in a way. Because racism obviously is frowned upon, right? It's like almost like illegal, right? You know, it's unethical. It's like damn near illegal, pretty much, in many organizations, institutions, to be racist. And so it kind of gives black people like a one-up in a way, right? Let's say there was a secret society of black people who were organizing. You know, not to say there isn't. Well, let's say hypothetically, right? There is a secret society of black people who are organizing, and they have this agenda for black supremacy. When you have this belief and held in the minds of many people that we can't be racist, then when you see black people operating within this secret society in racist ways, so to speak, people are going to deny it. People don't even see it. They're not going to see it, right? They're not going to see the racism perpetuated by these black people in this secret society, because people have internalized this belief that we just can't be racist, because it's been said for hundreds of years that we just can't do nothing. We can't be racist. We can't own nothing. So I look at it from many different perspectives and say, okay, well, maybe that might work to our benefit to say we can't be racist. But I also kind of take offense to it, too. Because I'm like, that's racist as shit. If white people can be racist, why can't we be racist? Why can't we have power? Why can't we create a system of black supremacy? But they can do it, but we can't do it. So I look at it from that perspective. And I do think, yes, we can be racist, because I think we do hold the power, just as much power as they have. And I feel like that's just a way, I mean, for white people to say that, I think, to say that we can't be racist, I think that's just their way of maintaining their power. They said, in a way, I think, when they, especially in conversations with black people, right, even in institutions or wherever this discussion is being had about can black people be racist or whatever, I think they kind of say it in a way like they are trying to do us a favor or protect the innocence of black people. But they also are doing it to protect their system of white supremacy. Like I said, that's some racist ass shit. You know, that's like saying black people, we can't own nothing. We can't build our own institutions. We can't create a nation. And you think about racism, I mean, yeah, historically it's been looked at as something that's bad, but I think it's a functional purpose, you know? Because especially if you believe that your race deserves all of this privilege, you know, or you want to be in power. It's really about power more than anything. You want to be in power, then you're going to give that power to your own race. That's basically racism. So I think that any race of people will want that, especially if we have this construct of race. Now, if we look at everybody as one human race, then we need no need for this discussion in the conversation right now. But that's not what we live in. I mean, it has already been established that there are different races, so we're just working within the confine of the definition. You know, we're just playing the game. So I think any race of people would want to be in power, and with that power, I mean, of course, you're going to have privileges given to your own race, you know, first and foremost. Not to say you're going to go and just start doing everybody else wrong. I think that racism may look different depending on who's in power, you know, and we know what it looks like when white people are in power, you know, how other races who they feel are less important or, you know, less significant, how they have treated those other races, mistreated them actually. So we know what that looks like, but what does it look like when, you know, black people are racist or black people are in power? And I think we have examples of that in Africa, but is that really power though? Because what I've been seeing in Africa, it just seems like an illusion of power. It seems like, especially with them being colonized and other groups of people, races of people coming into Africa and dictating how Africa should run their government, how Africa should do business, and are able to buy out certain things and act like, how is that? How do you have power when other people have changed your language, you know, and they dictate and tell you how you should run your government, you know, and also finance, like the financial aspect is important also, because when you look at the value of the currency in Africa, if it's less than the value of the currency in other places, then that's where the power is in the money. You get, because the money controls so many different things. Money controls people's survival. So I know people complain about the corruption in Africa. And I'm kind of getting off topic, but I still think this is all related. So if people complain about the corruption in Africa with African leaders being bribed, they take these bribes, you know, right? And they don't really care about the people. It's all about them getting money, you know. Obviously, that goes to show you the power of the dollar, you know. And other countries they recognize it. They recognize that people are money hungry, and that not so much money, but you need money to survive, right? And money is an important tool of survival. So it makes sense why there would be corruption, you know, because people are just human beings. But on that note, considering how far I've kind of gotten off topic, because the topic really is about this men's movement. But I think it's still all related. I mean, y'all know this is just what I'm interested in. I'm interested in looking at people, looking at society and just the changes that are happening in our society. And I think that we're all impacted by it. And it's important that we all kind of keep our eyes open to what's happening so we know what's up, I feel like I'm always going to be informed and know what's going on. That's important. That's what's really important to me. It's good to see certain trends, right? And to look, watch TV, because even in TV, you can learn things just by watching reality TV, for example, even though it seems like it's garbage and it's drama. But Hollywood directors and writers, they create these stories as a reflection of real life. Everybody knows that. If you're an artist, art reflects life. So there's much to be learned even just by watching television. But I do have to get ready for my class. I thank you guys for tuning in. I encourage you guys to just share your thoughts. I feel like there's a lot to learn just from many different people's perspectives. We all have so much information to share, and I'm open to that. The only thing is that sometimes people, it's just the way they do it, But for me, I've always been the kind of person like, hey, I'm going to present my difference of opinion. I feel like that is my privilege. That is our privilege, especially being in America. I mean, that's all I known. That you can just say what's on your mind. Freedom of speech. I've always embraced that. I mean, yes, it's gotten me in trouble, growing up, especially growing up, My mom always said, your mouth gonna get you in trouble. But I just feel like my mouth also helped liberates me. And, hey, it is what it is. And so, yeah, just thinking back to my supervisor. I don't know, she tripped. We're gonna figure it out. Next week, we're gonna figure it out. How we're gonna be able to have this relationship with two very strong black women in the room and realize that it's no competition. Because I think that there's something happening on like a meta level where maybe she feels threatened. Just looking at the way she responded to me, and I'm like, you asked me what's my rationale for wanting to administer a psychodiagnostic test to certain clients, and I told you. But she told me I got defensive. I'm like, no, I think she was projecting. Like, she was getting defensive with me because I can tell the elevation in her voice. And she was getting angry, and then she paused and she just took a deep breath. Like, I could tell when somebody's getting frustrated. She's looking like all up in the sky and stuff, rolling her eyes. I'm like, really? Am I is it that intense? Like, am I that difficult to supervise? I feel like I can't be that. Come on now. Come on. I think it's just a black thing, because I have white professors, and I feel like they value what I have. And it's sad that it has to be this way, but I noticed this. And it's not that I have a white bias. I'm just making an observation. This is an observation I've made between my supervisor, who's a black woman, and even my previous white supervisor and my white professors, how the way I am at my practicum site at work, like I express myself, I'm the same way in school. Probably even more, because this is a place for learning and we share ideas and stuff. So I express myself, And sometimes I may challenge something that a professor says, but I don't get pushback like that. They just look at me like, oh, interesting. And it creates conversation. That's how we can get our wheels going. Like that, to me, I love intellectual conversations. And I feel like when people, they get upset and they start to get angry because if they look at it like it's a debate, it's not a debate. Don't try to debate with me. That's a big no-no. Don't debate with a person who's an intellectual, because they can go on and on and on and on until the end of the earth. And I think that's the issue, because I think she ran out of things to defend as if it was a debate. Because when you're in debate, the goal is to win. You're trying to win an argument. I'm not here to try to debate with nobody. I'm just here to express my perspective. Understand there's a difference. That's what creates communication. If you approach it from the perspective of we're just here to share ideas, then nobody will get offended. You know, no one gonna feel like, oh, this is a race or it's a competition. It's not a competition. It's not about right or wrong either. It's just about different perspectives, and we can come together and share our different ideas, and magic can happen. That's all I'm saying. I love it when we're having a discourse, you know, and going back and forth, even if we have totally different perspectives. It does something. Like for me, I think I get like emotionally aroused, like I get turned on by it. But on that note, I gotta go. I'll catch you guys later. Y'all pray for me, because I hope I feel like when people get threatened, especially supervisors, child, they be trying to write you up and, you know, want to tell the school about how terrible of an intern I am, and I'm so defensive and I can't take feedback, and that is not the case. I'm telling them, like, I'm open to learn. I'm here to learn. Do you think I'm investing thousands of dollars for nothing? My time and energy? Come on. I never miss a day. Like, I'm there. I'm very committed. I take my work very serious. Don't ever sit up here and put the label on me just because you feel intimidated, because I'm a very bright individual, and yes, I may be challenging at times, and yes, I'm definitely not the kind of person or student or intern or whatever who's just like, yeah, and agree with everything somebody says just because they have credibility. I respect your credibility, but if I disagree, then you're going to know I disagree, you know. And I think, generally speaking, I agree. And I will say, yeah, you're right. I shake my head. But it's always that time of disagreement that people have issue. They take issue with, and they don't know how to deal with it. It offends them. It throws them completely off. And they just like, oh, they go into fight or flight mode. And immediately she like ended our supervision. She was like, all right, I'm going to dismiss you right now, but we'll try this again next week. And I'm like, what is there to try? I'm going to be the same me next week. I mean, granted, I see that she is sensitive. I will approach our supervision meeting probably with a little bit more care, because I thought maybe, I'm like, dude, you a licensed psychologist. Like, come on. You should know how to deal with challenging situations, but apparently she's very sensitive to that and very reactive. And I can see where it was going to get into a reenactment, you know, for you guys who are in the field of psychology or whatever. Like, basically it's just like, you know, when people kind of it's a lot of things that we bring into the room, you know, when we're with someone. A lot of times when you have this conflict, it ain't about you or that person. It's really about something else that you bring in, like baggage, so to speak, that you bring into the room. And if you're not aware of it, it's going to create an enactment, a reenactment, you know. And I don't have time for that. I'm here to learn. I don't have time to be engaged in crazy stuff going on. But I gotta go. I have class at 1. Thank you guys for the conversation. Men, like, come on. This MGTOW, I mean, it would be beautiful for men to just be able to, let's have, like, conversations. Let's have these platforms where men can go up there and they can express themselves amongst women and say how they feel. Y'all ain't gotta get in y'all little private circles and be turning against us. Come on. Like, I think marriage between a man and woman is still a beautiful thing. Like, let's keep that and value that. Let's keep that sacred. Let's not make it like it's this bad thing because we have these negative interactions. So when you just have negative interactions, like, you develop this opposition towards women, you know. You develop an aversion. Like, when people, let's say, eat something, a food item that's bad, that made them sick, and so that from there they just stop eating that kind of food, right? They call it food aversion, but it's just like y'all have an aversion towards women now. Like, you had fucked up relationships, you know, or you pissed off about what's happened socially with this women's rights movement or Me Too movement, so now you just like, fuck women. Come on. There are beautiful women out there, you know. Anyway, I gotta go. Catch you guys later. Love you guys. Bye.